Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the 6th episode of Crunch Time with Kruck. Joined in the booth, as always, is Mad Max Williams. How you doing today?
Kruck, I'm doing great, man. Nice, beautiful day outside, so enjoying the weather, man. How about yourself?
Absolutely great today. Later, we're going to be joined by Justyn Brown, our basketball expert. But before we get there, the first topic on the slate today is March Madness. More importantly, how is your bracket doing after Oral Roberts? Max.
Kruck, I'm officially going to say, like everyone else around the world, my bracket is busted. And my bracket is busted, first of all, because I first picked Illinois, and Illinois just lost to Loyola Chicago. And now I'm not really happy about that. And obviously, my Ohio State Buckeyes just lost to Oral Roberts, which is another big loss and probably the shock and the biggest upset in the tournament so far. But I'm also shocked looking at this tournament is how the Big Ten has done and only getting one team in the Sweet 16. While the Pac-12 right now has 4 teams in the Sweet 16. And everyone was talking about, oh, the Big Ten's going to do so well. We have Iowa, we have Michigan, we have Ohio State. All those teams could probably get there. And having only Michigan in there right now, that's just interesting to me and just different. While the Pac-12's got USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Oregon State, a team that just won off the Pac-12, and no one thought they would win the Pac-12 championship coming off of this way. So obviously, they're going to at least have at least one team in the Elite Eight because USC and Oregon play each other right now in the Sweet 16. So they're automatically going to at least have one team in the Elite Eight. But it's shocking, man. You know what I mean? It's this whole tournament. This is why it's called it. You know what I mean? We all expected. I even picked Texas to even go to the Final Four. And look, and I know you picked Abilene Christian on yours. And I was like, I don't know if that's going to happen. I believe in Texas. I didn't this way. But, again, a close loss, free throws at the end. Texas lost. So crazy year, Kruck. How about you? Is your bracket just totally done, man?
Oh, my bracket's done. I had Illinois winning it all. Goes to show if you cheer for Wisconsin once, you should cheer for them always because, well, Illinois fighting Illini usually don't pan out. Interesting thing I saw on Instagram, one of the various social media accounts or one of the various social media platforms that I use on a daily basis, a account named Sportsline. They take certain let's say games, and they run through simulations. So for the Super Bowl, they played Madden, and they would do the Chiefs versus the Buccaneers about 100 times and see who would win. And it would all be based on statistics, so it is factually proven. And they ended up doing Sweet 16 percentages of winning March Madness. And Gonzaga has a 39% chance of winning it purely based on Sportline. Wow, Oral Roberts has a 0.01% chance of winning it all. That is 1 in 10,000 they would win. But there's a reason they're called the Cinderella team. Another quote-unquote Cinderella team that I truly don't think are a Cinderella team anymore, number 8 seed Loyola Chicago. You know, they have the sister who they're playing for. All props to them. But they're really not a Cinderella team. They came in last year as a Cinderella team, 100%. This year, people know their name. People know who they are. They know how they play. They're just outplaying people.
Yeah, I mean, actually, Kruck, it was 2 years ago, not 1 year ago with Loyola Chicago, just to remind you of that. But just looking at that with Loyola Chicago, I think they have a lot of people that are over this way. You know what I mean? It's got Cameron Krutwig, Marquise Kennedy, all those people that were part of that team that they won that made that Final Four run is still part of that team. And Loyola Chicago's got a lot of people there that are going to help this team out. But, Kruck, I'm just going to move over a little bit, talk a little bit just about Oral Roberts and their story. And just hearing about Oral Roberts, they come out of the Summit League. The Summit League has South Dakota State, North Dakota State, those teams in it. They're located right now in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so a little part of Tulsa, Oklahoma that is very interesting to read about. And they got this kid very interesting to me that is right now one of the leading scorers right now in actually college basketball, and Max Asmus, a very interesting player. As a 2-star recruit, he came out of Jesuit College Prep in Dallas, Texas, which was a big-time school in that area, big time this way, but he was only a 2-star recruit. Can you imagine that? Only a 2-star recruit. But he was obviously looking at teams like Navy, Air Force, and Army, like all military kind of schools that he was looking at. You know what I mean? And now look at him. Now he's getting all the talk by leading Oral Roberts now to the Sweet 16, obviously until tomorrow, we don't know. But we got to see what happens with this way. So I think he had a quote, though, and he said he's one reason why he wanted to come here to Oral Roberts. He said this to the Tulsa World. He said, from day one, they really made it seem like they wanted me to come in and impact the program. You know what I mean? Just impact the program, be a part of it. And, the leadership, I think, of what Oral Roberts is having right now, beating Ohio State, a team that everyone was talking about, trying to go at least to the Elite Eight or maybe the Final Four or go all the way. And a team now with Florida, another team it's not as powerful, but still another prime-time team that's like a bigger school. So that's just very cool to learn about that, Kruck. And I've also learned this is their deepest run in program history since 1974. That's a long time for a program like Oral Roberts to get this way. And in that year, they beat Elite Eight teams like Louisville and Syracuse before they lost to Kansas in that time, in that year. So very interesting. I hope Oral Roberts can beat Arkansas tomorrow. You guys better tune in to watch that game if you want. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe they will go to the Elite Eight, Kruck. Who would have thought that?
And when you're looking at it, this is only the second time in March Madness history a 15 seed has made the Sweet 16. And Oral Roberts, it's a college named after a famous American televangelist, a guy who preaches on TV. You mentioned it, the guard, Max Asmus. Another guy I'd like to look at, the junior forward, Kevin Obenar. Personally, I really like him. 19 points a game, averages about 10 rebounds, 1 assist, but he's shooting just south of 90% from the free throw line. It's an outstanding rate for a forward. And then somebody else to look at, they are taking on the number 3 seed Arkansas. That will be in the Sweet 16 as mentioned. Make sure to watch that game. That should be a great one. But I talked about Loyola, and I said 1 year. It's meant to be 2 years. But the senior center, Cameron Kurtwig, social media is blowing up about him. The man looks like a fully grown 40-year-old adult, and he's out here leading Loyola Chicago to a potentially deep run in March Madness, averaging 15.7 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block, and 1 steal, and he's getting helped out also by the sophomore guard, Braden Norris, who's getting 8 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and then shooting 41% from three-point range. That's a great stat line going into March Madness.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Loyola Chicago, all those teams, and Oral Roberts, even UCLA, Syracuse, all these double-digit seeds you see are coming in right now and making a name for themselves in the tournament. We can't wait to see what comes up next, Kruck. You know what I mean? What the Elite Eight holds for us, the Final Four holds for us, and whatever the national championship game will be. I mean, who knows? I mean, it could be against 2 double-digit seeds for a national championship. You never know with this crazy year going on in this way. So, yeah, Kruck, so talking about NCAA, we're going to transition and move over to something that happened in the NFL. Last week, former Detroit Lions wide receiver Kenny Gallaudet, he reached a 4-year, $72 million deal with the New York Giants. This deal can be up to $76 million, include $40 million guaranteed money on this contract. Gallaudet has been productive wide receiver in the league, Kruck, having 65 catches for 1,090 yards with 11 touchdowns in 2019. That is pretty productive stats for the wide receiver. So, Kruck, how is this going to help the Giants? I'm curious, how do you think the Giants are going to be with this Gallaudet trade?
Well, I mean, just looking at his pure stats, the Giants got a very good wide receiver. Not the best one on the table, in my opinion, but he is a pretty good wide receiver. 3,068 total receiving yards. It breaks down to about 17 per catch. 21 touchdowns. He's had 2 straight years with over 1,000 yards receiving, 1 Pro Bowl appearance. And then when he's doing a crossing route, crossing from one side of the field to the other, he averages 4.3 yards per crossing route, second to only DeAndre Hopkins, who averages 4.4. He also has a 54.4% efficiency rating, which is third most to Mike Evans and Michael Thomas. That is very elite company that he is in for a wide receiver who is very underrated. Max.
Yeah, like you said, Kruck, this is a big pickup for the Giants. You know what I mean? He's, like you said, he's not the best in the league, but he's going to be a person that's going to make big catches for you in big games. You know what I mean? I felt like, obviously, with Detroit, he obviously wasn't getting the national or primetime attention, like you said, like DeAndre Hopkins or Michael Thomas was. because obviously with Detroit, they weren't known for being in the playoff team as usual. But I'm looking at with the Giants' stats and how this way. When I look at the Giants, they were 31st in the league, Kruck, in total offense. That's a problem. You know what I mean? And I feel like that upgrade with Kenny Gallaudet is going to be a big pickup for Daniel Jones. But not just that. I think Daniel Jones himself has got to have a big step-up year for the Giants. You know what I mean? I think it's time for him to understand he's the role there in New York, and he's the role. And if you want to compete now finally with the Cowboys getting that deal with Dak and getting them with their primetime offense and that defense and the Washington football team, there's two good teams still in the NFC East that they got to compete with if they want to be able to help them out this way. I mean, you still got Saquon Barkley. I understand that. Saquon Barkley's a big piece. But obviously he's got to stay healthy the entire season. If he's healthy, I think he is one of the best running backs, I think, in the league right now. He's very shifty, makes a lot of plays. He does a lot of juke moves, and he shows off in the weight room. Every single time I watch him in the rave, he shows off all his calves and shows up everything this way. So I hope he has a big-time year, but just quickly, Kruck, I'm going to talk about some stats that Daniel Jones had. Last season, he threw for 2,943 yards and had 11 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. Again, like I said, that's not going to cut it. You know what I mean? For a team like the Giants and a team like New York that wants to represent their city in this way. So he's got to have a big step-up year. I hope Golladay can help him out. I hope, building up that defense as well. I know they did something with Leonard Williams. That was a big defensive line pickup for them, helping them out, getting a deal for him. They needed that for their defense. So they got two strong teams in the NFC. They got to keep competing and keep helping themselves out, Kruck.
I mean, you're absolutely right. And as I mentioned, I thought that there were better wide receivers on the table. The Giants wanted to go with Kenny Gallaudet. I was obviously not in the press conference for that. I'm in the middle of Kansas City, so it's a long drive to New York. But there are two people who really stuck out to me. Will Fuller, who ended up going from Houston to the Dolphins, if I'm not mistaken. And then T.Y. Hilton, who went from Indiana back to Indiana, signed another contract with them. But I really liked those two more than I liked Kenny Gallaudet. Just looking at it, T.Y. Hilton, he averages 16 yards per reception, which is one less than Kenny Gallaudet. But at the same time, he has longer touchdowns. He's got more touchdowns, and he's got about 3 times the yards in only 4 more years than Kenny Gallaudet, which they're both number one receivers coming out of, so that's easily comparable. But then Will Fuller at the same time, I really like him. Not a really big Houston fan, but I really like him. He gets about 15 yards per reception, and he has just as many receiving yards in one less year of play. So those two receivers are who I personally would have went with. I know you're a Kenny Gallaudet fan, so I don't want to step on your toes too hard, but I personally like those two receivers better.
Oh, personally, Kruck, I wouldn't say I'm the biggest Kenny Gallaudet fan, but, I think he's still a good receiver in the league. You know what I mean? I kind of say that because if you don't know me, I'm an Ohio guy. There was talks about Cincinnati in the area, and he could possibly go there, and A.J. Green was off the table, right, with the Cardinals. And, obviously with him off the table, I thought maybe we can get Kenny Gallaudet, but then obviously now we know he is signed with the Giants. So, I think those other two you mentioned are good receivers, T.Y. and Will Fuller, but I think right now I still believe Kenny Gallaudet has that more elite ability than T.Y. Hilton. Obviously with Hilton being with his age, getting this way, been with the Colts for a long time, right? He's been there for a long time in that area. And Will Fuller, too, just how he's going to upgrade, and obviously with the Texans as well.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Another wide receiver who was big news in free agency, Nelson Aguilar. Honestly, looking at him straight up stat-wise, he's got more yards, he's got more touchdowns, but then again, he also has more receptions and 2 more years in the league. Kenny Gallaudet, the huge number that stands out for me is yards per reception, 17 yards per reception. That's a number that cannot be overlooked. He's just a really great athlete. He's going to be a great addition to the Giants. And I hope the Giants can get back to Super Bowl caliber as they were back in the glory days of Eli Manning. but the road is long. They have to be able to stay healthy. They have to be able to get great players, and they need an O-line to keep Daniel off his back.
Yes, absolutely, Kruck.
And then moving forward, our next topic on the table, the Big Ten is now allowing fans at college spring sports. How will this affect the games? Max?
Kruck, I'm very proud and happy that the Big Ten is starting to make news to get people and fans in games. I say this for a couple of reasons. One reason is when you think of the Big Ten, I always thought of they started late with the process of getting games and things started last season. You know what I mean? Because one of them, they were like right around October they started. They were supposed to start there early in the season. They didn't quit then. Kevin Warren then did this way, and they move it around. And I feel like starting fresh right away, getting to the public to know that maybe fans are coming there and how many – obviously we don't know with what's COVID going to be like, right? We don't know what teams are going to be and how everything's going to be like. But having fans, I believe, in any type of sporting event is just a great for any atmosphere. You know what I mean? Any player will feed off any fan. You know what I mean? The fans bring the game to the attention. The fans bring the excitement to the game. And I just imagine this, Kruck. Imagine the empty stadium of the Horseshoe, Michigan Stadium, and where USC plays in LA Coliseum as being just quiet as it was. It's just, that's weird. You know what I mean? Because usually those stadiums are packed with a lot of people all there around moving this way. And how it just felt weird not having that there. And I believe with Ohio State's spring game planning to start on April 17th and having those fans coming around this way, that's going to have to be big time for Ohio State and other, obviously, Big Ten teams as well, not just Ohio State, but other teams as well to get those fans in the stadium to help out the cause. Now, obviously, we don't know the amount or percentage of fans are going to be there, whether it's 25%, 20%, 15%, whatever it is, depending on the CDC guidelines, the local guidelines that are in the area. But I think it's important, like I said before, just to have the fans enjoy it and maybe have hopefully a better and more fun college football season than we kind of did a little bit last season.
Well, speaking on the number of fans, as you mentioned, it was released this morning. If the stadium can hold, now this is for indoor, an indoor stadium that can hold less than 10,000 fans, you're allowed to have 375 fans. If it's an indoor stadium that holds more than 10,000 fans, 750 fans. Where'd they get the drastic change in numbers? I don't know. But those tickets are going to be expensive because people are going to want to be there. If it is an outdoor stadium, baseball, softball, other spring sports like lacrosse and soccer, 20% of the stadium can be filled.
Wow.
But you will have to sit one person away from each other, even if you are in a party. So if you bring in a family of 4, you're going to take up 8 seats because there has to be a gap in each one. Indiana, though, their baseball team is off to a great start, and you'd think you'd want some fans there to capitalize on how great the team's doing. They will not allow fans in for the remainder of the coronavirus pandemic, presumable future. They are not trying to take any chances. So what do you think about that, Max?
Yeah, I did not know about Indiana and the whole baseball in that way. That was interesting what you said there. And, you know, it's good that obviously we're having fans in games. You know what I mean? It's just glad that we're talking about it. You know what I mean? It's just glad that we're talking about maybe we're going to have a sense of normalcy back. You know what I mean? Whether it's a slow build-up or the amount of fans, whether it's indoor, outdoor, like you mentioned, it's just good to have that in this way. You know what I mean? It's always good to have that and just keep going on. You know what I mean? That's very important for the whole build-up and for the whole team itself. You know what I mean? I think that's important. You know what I mean? Just to have that in general and keep building up as well. So,
I mean, you're absolutely right. The Big Ten fans are huge. Home team advantage has kind of been, touch and go throughout the pandemic. You can't really have fans in the stadium, and unless you do something huge, there's really not much home team advantage. So putting fans back in the stadium will be awesome for the players and will be awesome for the Big Ten because the Big Ten makes a lot more money when fans are in the stadium.
Yes.
Because you consider concessions, buying gear, You got to get into the stadium. You got to park at the stadium. There's a lot of money that goes into this. And the Big Ten, if they can do it and not get people and players sick, this could be a huge win for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope, like you said, the Big Ten can start something like that. You know what I mean? Just start bringing, like, maybe the SEC, like I said, the Pac-12, all those other conferences. Maybe they start bringing fans into games. You know what I mean? I hope that it works out, and I hope everything can apply for the Big Ten as it goes on. We're going to move on, Kruck. We're going to talk about, last week we did talk about Deshaun Watson and the whole the lawsuits that were going against him. Now, a couple days after it now, more lawsuits are getting filed on the star quarterback, now totaling up to 16 total lawsuits of sexual assault and misconduct. These lawsuits have obviously become more severe, and obviously one of them, or one person, has mentioned, as they called Watson, a serial predator. Per one of the lawsuits filed against him. Again, all of these 16 women filed separate lawsuits against Watson. These were all separate lawsuits against him. But right now, but attorney Tony Busby, who has said that the legal action isn't about the money situation. He's mentioning right now, since these women are suing for the least amount they can for the Texas Civil District Court. So, Kruck, I mean, we talked about this last week. We had a little statement for ourselves to try to, obviously, this way, but I guess I asked this question to you. How does this now, do you think, will affect now, obviously, Watson, his career left in the NFL at this point?
Well, as of now, 16 women are pressing charges for sexual misconduct on the starting quarterback for the Houston Texans. The first case was with a massage therapist who had sexual misconduct due onto her in her own home. And up to 22 women in total have come forward with the willingness to file a lawsuit against him. 16 have gone forward with it. Still waiting on the other 6. But Deshaun Watson still wants out of Houston. He's made that public. He's made that clear. These cases have not really been on his side trying to get out. Not to say whether or not he has or has not done it. That is not what we're here for. We're simply stating the facts. And as a GM, you really don't want to make a move on somebody who has 16 court cases pending.
Yes.
So he's probably not going to move anytime soon. As soon as all the cases are gone, that's when they're going to restart. But even if he is cleared of all the charges, the publicity of this will forever be on his name, and GMs are probably going to get him a lot cheaper because he's going to be, quote unquote, damaged goods.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with that. I would see, like, no kind of GMs kind of tolerating, whether, again, like you said, we just want to state the facts. We don't know what's up with this way, but having still that on your back or on your plate is still not great in any sort or any case. So, like I said, I personally, like I said, it's just not acceptable. You know what I mean? It's just not something it's something we want to talk about, and there's things that we want to be able to, change this way. And I hope, with Deshaun, that maybe whatever happens in these allegations, I hope he can change his format for himself. You know what I mean? Change himself and make him more of a better person for himself, because again, this is, whether they're true or not, it's just not acceptable to have those kind of things on you, Kruck.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Looking at the prosecution, Busby is the lawyer. He's a pretty famous guy around the Houston area, friends with the owners and management of the Texans, as stated previously. Ran for mayor, didn't get it. If he runs again, best of luck to him. But he has subpoenaed text messages. In a previous trial, he was the prosecutor against Mario Williams. You might remember him, a previous number 1 overall, or a previous first-round pick for the Texans. In that case, he subpoenaed 1,794 texts. And that's a lot of text messages to read through, piece together. He ended up going through it, and he ended up having a pretty good trial. The prosecution did win that trial. Watson's texts have been pretty much brought forward, and right now, to me, it kind of looks like the O.J. Simpson glove. If the text messages prove that he did it, then that's not looking good. If the text messages don't prove that he did it, prosecution's back to square one. So I guess if the texts don't fit, you must acquit. But we're going to once again release an official statement. Here at Crunch Time with Kruck, we do not support the actions of sexual harassment or misconduct, and we want you do not believe what we are saying to be law. What we're saying is simply facts that we have found. We are not making our own opinions on things, but simply just restating what we found off of several different sites and presenting them to you in an easy-to-listen-to way. We're simply stating facts, and as far as Deshaun Watson goes, we consider him a very good quarterback. I mean, top 5. But his actions off the field are not what we would consider to be appropriate if he is convicted of these cases.
Yes, and that's, like I said, great that we made that statement. And obviously, that is our goal and premise of that certain situation. So, but Kruck, we're going to move on to a little sort of fun topic. Our good old NBA insider, good old friend Justyn Brown, he's going to talk about some of the NBA trade deadline news, what's been important the past couple days in the NBA. So, Justyn, what you got, my man?
Hello, I'm Crunch Time with Kruck's basketball analyst Justyn Brown, and today I'll be talking about the NBA trade deadline that passed yesterday. With the first trade, I'll be talking about the Rockets and Heat, where the Rockets send Victor Oladipo to Miami for Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and a 2022 first-round swap right with the Nets. First, let me say this. I'm not sure what the Rockets are thinking with this trade, and quite frankly, I'm not sure the Rockets even know what they're thinking with this, because they pretty much get nothing for Victor Oladipo when they could have had Karis LeVert and Jared Allen in the trade with the Nets, but they turned that down for some reason. Avery Bradley's been banged up all year. He's only played 10 games this season. He's only averaging 8 points a game, so that's not really anything they're getting back. Kelly Olynyk averaging 10 and 5, not much at all, while Victor Oladipo, he's been playing the last 9 games, he's averaging 24 points a game with 34% from the three-point line. So he's really going to help out Miami. And Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, they're really going to need his help in this making this late playoff push. Just like last year, they're coming off a finals appearance. So this year, they're going to need Victor Oladipo's help to help out Jimmy Butler. So on to the second trade. We're going to talk about the Clippers and Hawks trade. So the Clippers finally get the point guard that they've been trying to get for the past 2 years now with Rajon Rondo. In Rondo, they're getting a leader. They finally have a leader. Last year, that was, in my opinion, that was their problem. They had no leadership. Kawhi Leonard, he's not vocal at all. He only stays to himself. Paul George, he's not a leader at all. We all know that. Paul George in his games that he has in the playoffs. Rondo he also brings in experience. He has 2 championships, in 07 with the Celtics, Ray Allen, KG, Paul Pierce, and just last year with LeBron and the Lakers, he was a big contributing piece to that team. So the Clippers this trade could potentially put them over the hump and get to maybe a finals or even win the finals. Okay, so and the Hawks, they're also getting the best 6th man in NBA history, in my opinion, Lou Williams. This man, he's a great scorer off the bench. They're going to need this to help out Trae Young and John Collins. So this will be a great pickup for them. On to the Magic and the Nuggets. So the Magic send Aaron Gordon to the Nuggets for Gary Harris, R.J. Hampton, and a 2025 first-round pick. I think this is a great trade for both teams, as Aaron Gordon will be a great fit alongside Nikola Jokic. I'll be very interested in seeing how they make that work, but with Aaron Gordon shooting a career high in three-point percentage this year, I believe this will be a great fit to go along Jokic and Jamal Murray, as they will need that help in the playoffs to get past teams like possibly the Lakers or even the Clippers. Aaron Gordon's averaging 14.5 points this year, 6.6 rebounds, and for the Nuggets, R.J. Hampton, he's an up-and-coming rookie. He's a rookie, very talented. He played in the NBL with LaMelo Ball. This guy has lots of potential, and I think both teams have lots of great things to look forward to in this season. With that said, I'm Justyn Brown, Crunch Time with Kruck's basketball analyst. I'll send it back to Max.
Thanks, Justin, my man. We'll see if your NBA trade insight is good enough for all of us to listen. So we'll see what happens, my man. Kruck, what you got?
Moving forward, our last topic, we're going to discuss Avila University's Wild Weekend. No, it's not like Wild Bob's Rodeo. It's a bit more sporty than that. Baseball, 3 games in the weekend. Football with a night game. Volleyball hosting a game. And then softball doubleheader. What do you got for the insight, Max?
Kruck, it's going to be a packed weekend, isn't it? You know, we got a lot of stuff going on here around Avila University and the campus. And all I got to say is you just got to tune in to watch everything. You know what I mean? If you can, obviously. You know, tune in. You know, obviously with the volleyball team starting the first round of the tournament, that's big news. You know, hopefully they can do well. Wish them luck. Be successful. Like I said, baseball, you know, big 3-game series here this week. You know, that's big time, you know, playing Kansas Wesleyan. Hopefully they can get the dub, get it done. The players can do this way. And our football team, hopefully they can represent as well. You know what I mean? Getting a big win against Ottawa, that'll be important, obviously, for us. We talked about that a couple shows back, and we talked about how we need to have a big win against Ottawa to impress the, you know, get us in that top 16. Like I said, the top 16 teams in the NAI qualify for the playoffs. So that's big news. So we got to be able to get to that top 16. Right now we are currently at number 20. So we got to be able to, you know, keep impressing, keep winning out, and get the job done, Kruck.
And, yeah, absolutely. Starting off with baseball for me, Kansas Wesleyan is 15-10, off to a pretty good start. 15 wins. You know, respectable. Can't really say much else about it.
Mm-hmm.
They average 2 doubles per game. Their team slugging is just south of 500, and they've scored 171 runs. So they're great at putting runs on the board. Avila University off to a not so good start, 2-18. They've had better years, but there are some positives. They've had 6 triples through so far, which is in the top 100 of the NAI rankings.
Wow.
And then Kurt Trotter so far has a 100% fielding percentage. Congratulations to him. We talked about football. Ottawa is coming into the game 5-3. Avila is ranked number 20 in the NAI standings. Ottawa lost to Tabor last weekend, which we were penciling them in for a win, but they ended up losing it. On the season, they convert 37% of their 4th downs. They have a running back named Derek Curtis, who averages 143 rushing yards per game. So the D linemen have their hands full.
Yeah.
And they allow less than 200 passing yards per. So John Jacobs, if he can find the right receivers at the right times, we could be breaking a lot of their stats. Avila, on the other hand, John Jacobs is averaging 8 yards less than 300 in terms of total offense just for him. So 292 yards of total offense per game. Malik Nesbitt averaging 115 on the ground. Avila is number 2 when it comes to first downs per game in the entire NAIA, as well as number 6 for total offensive yards per game in the all of NAIA. But one of the best players who really doesn't get mentioned that much, freshman Riley Fairhurst, the punter. He averages 38 yards per punt, which as a freshman is an absolutely outstanding number. We talked about volleyball. The KCAC tournament starts. The first games will be hosted by the higher seed. Avila is lucky enough to be a higher seed and will be hosting a tournament game on Sunday at 1. Make sure to tune in. They're number 6 in all of NAI when it comes to blocks, and D. Williams is really leading the charge on that. Number 4 in all of individual players NAI with 116 blocks. Number 8 in all of NAI in digs as a team with 1,946. Aspen Kreidner leading the charge on that battlefront, as she's number 10 in all of NAI with 544. Max.
Wow, that was some good stats there, Kruck. Good stats for volleyball and football and everything. And I'll just finish it off by just saying, wish us all luck. You know what I mean? Wish all the Avila Athletics luck. We want to represent our school, so we got to get the dubs, Kruck. We just got to get the dubs and treat ourselves well. So Good luck to everybody.
And then the last game to play, softball has a doubleheader against Southwestern. But the reigning KCAC player of the week is on Avila's side, Mia Moreno. This week, she was slugging 667. Or excuse me, she was slugging 125 or 1.25. So 125 with the period coming after the 1. That's outstanding. She has a batting average this week of 667, and then she drove in 8 RBIs. As like the baseball team, the softball team has a player with a 100% fielding rating. That's Sydney Gearhart, the catcher. And the team so far this year is hitting just south of 250, slugging just south of 350, 120 hits, 84 runs, and then my favorite stat, 7 homers. So, I hope you liked the show today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Jacob Krukenberg, Mad Max, signing out, and have a great week. We'll see you next time.